We are a podcast for product marketers and B2B SaaS who feel misunderstood of what they do.
From someone who truly gets what you do, and it
basically help you feel less like a misfit, being unignorable in your role.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of We're Not Marketers. This is Zach, the sales water boy, on the call.
Gab Bugeaud, the sales deck intern. I still do sales deck until I die.
And for season 2, you still got Eric Holland here, the one and only Franken marketer of the group. And Zach, back to you so you can introduce our special guest of the episode.
We got Julien Sauvage here with us here today. Julien is the VP of product marketing, along with customer marketing, and along with expanded responsibilities over at Clari. What you might not know about Julien is that prior to product marketing, he was in data science at Salesforce. We're really excited to have this conversation with Julien to really understand a few things. One, how does a non-traditional experience in product marketing make you a better marketing leader? And two, we're just here to kick it. But to start things off, Julien, what gaps do we need to fill in your illustrious intro that we are missing right now?
I think you got it pretty well, my friend. Good job even pronouncing my name. I like it. I would say Salesforce actually was PMM at Salesforce. Data science is even before Salesforce when I was still back in France. But yeah, no, that's I think you got it pretty well covered. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And welcome to season 2, whatever. Yeah.
I'm glad for two things for having Eric on. Eric's got to keep me more honest to the audience research. But the second piece, we got to give a shout out to Gab here too, because he kept me on point with the French pronunciation here.
Good job, Gab.
Yes, I have no merit. It's a language thing. And it's bringing us to the question of the hour that we ask every single one of our guests. So Julien, are product marketers actually marketers? Why or why not?
First off, I knew you would be asking me that question, and I feel like I commented a few times on your posts on LinkedIn. I love the provocation that comes with it. So I like that. I like that title. I like that thing. Yes, I think we are. I think product marketers are marketers 100%. The why is, if you think about the mission of product marketers, and if you think of the mission of marketers, it's kind of the same thing. And to me, that would be, we're here to change how people think about their life, their pain points, and then how they act and find solutions about those pain points, right? So how people think and how people find solutions. And I feel like that's what PMM do, and that's what marketing should be all about as well. When you apply that same thing to demand, to content, to PR, to customer marketing, it still is very much valid. So I stand by my POV and think that because of the shared why and mission and KPIs, product marketers are marketers for sure. You know what? I might even go like a little, I'm just going to riff with you for a second. Like the question should almost be opposite. Like maybe the real question you should kick off your show is, wait, are marketers actually product marketers? Like maybe that's a better way to frame it, because every marketer should be a bit of a PMM. So I'm reframing your question, if that makes sense.
Ooh, that might be one of the spicier takes we've heard so far.
And We're Not Marketers exclusive. He pulled an Uno reverse on us, y'all.
I know. I wasn't ready for that. And that might be the season 3 question, right?
Ooh.
That's really good. And for context, I resonate very strongly with what you're saying. I think there's obviously nuances and the reason that we picked the position that we did. And ideally, I would, if I had a dream world, you just described it for me, Julien, would be every marketer is a product marketer. And then they go off and they get channel specific and get really good at a channel, right? But I love that thought process specifically around adding more product marketing to marketing as opposed to adding more marketing to product marketing. That's very introspective. What do you guys think so far?
I like it very much, and it makes me think about one of the episodes that we actually had on season 2 that I won't say because I'm not sure of the scheduling yet, but in that episode, we spoke about like the origin of marketing, and the origin of it was like the brand man. It's kind of covering that part. The fact that ultimately at the source, a lot of marketing is product marketing. And in a lot of situations, I feel like we kind of drift away from the foundational basics. And I think that's also why, I think Anthony Pierre said something similar in season 1, which was, why not, instead of saying we're not marketers, why not saying marketers are more than that, more than marketers or stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a very good, as Zach said, reverse card. Definitely something to think about.
It just came to my mind. Sorry if it came off like off script. Not that I even have a script. I never have scripts, by the way. I think scripts suck.
Julian, this show doesn't have a script. Don't
season
put that
5,
out
by the way. Scripts suck. They suck.
You're not writers.
Yeah, no, I like that, man. I know you're not, and that's why I like this vibe. But yeah, I've seen so many examples of marketers who don't care about like the fundamentals of marketing, right? It's, because I own like a given campaign or a given channel, like I'm just going to rely on PMM to give me the messaging and the copy. And I freaking hate that. Every marketer should be a good copywriter. Every marketer should be a good messaging person, So yeah, I think there's something there that we can double click on. Every marketer should be a better product marketer.
We had a previous season 1 guest, Tamara Grominski, who said differently about product marketers writing copy. But let's hold on that for a few minutes here. But one question I have for you, to your point about product marketers changing how people think and act.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, how did your time at Salesforce influence that point of view in leading the unique positioning at both Gong and Clari? Because you said, like with Gong, for instance, you all didn't say we're the Salesforce of sales calls. So I'm curious, like, how does that POV have influenced the past work you've done at Gong and what you guys are doing today at Clari?
Yeah, I think there's like common patterns and kind of like qualities that PMMs at Salesforce, qualities and flaws, I guess both, that PMMs at Salesforce have, and PMMs at Gong and PMM at Clari. I think there's the intentionality of being bold. I know everybody's, oh yeah, I'm so different, I'm so bold, I stand out. But then it's bullshit, right? Like you take a look at every company's homepage and it's exactly the same crap. It's all GPT and it's all whatever. And so I think a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm bold," or just posers. So sorry, I'm going off script, but I think there's a culture of putting up a show, right? Like Dreamforce or a massive Gong Celebrate event or a really big Clari charge event. We want to be bold. We want to be different. We don't really, care about the playbook as much. I think that would be at least my way of seeing the through line between these companies in terms of how they approach, I would say, not just PMM, but messaging and storytelling in general. Like they don't mind taking risks and they hate jargon. I say that multiple times. I use GPT all the time to know what not to write. So yeah. That's kind of my take on that.
TLDR. So when GPT tells you to go left, Julien saying go right.
I don't know if it's like that drastic, but like at least if you want to know what has been said, then you use GPT and then you try to do different things, right?
Oh,
yeah,
that's super, super savvy. I've never even thought about that, but you're 100% right. If GPT is giving you that, then you can know two things. One, it's, sounds all jargony anyways. And two, it's coming from some public record. So someone else has used it somewhere. That's super savvy. I love how you just straight up said, if you call yourself bold, you're a poser, most likely. And I totally
sorry.
No, I totally agree with you, man. I totally agree. Like I hear it all the time. And I can just look at things and I'm like, you're not bold. You're not taking risks. You're not willing to do the scary thing that, know. So I'm going to use that. Anyone who says they're bold, I'm just going to call them a poser from now on.
It doesn't take long to realize that they are a poser too. Like you just start asking specific question and realize that like their whole point of view is we're number one in category or we're more than a CRM. I don't understand that one as a headline. Give me the cringe. But yeah, I think it's a strong point of view, as you said, but I strongly relate to it as well.
And I got a question that's like burning now. And I think about this every time I see the word on a homepage. But like you've crushed it now at 3 places, right? Gong, Salesforce, Clari right now. Something that I find super savvy is that you're using revenue as kind of an anchor point for your positioning. And I've always felt, oh my gosh, like anyone can talk about revenue in their positioning. So what do you feel like, or how has that been able to been pulled off by some of those bigger companies where they anchor into revenue and show the value as opposed to just sounding like someone else in the sea of sameness?
Sea of sameness. Yeah, I think that what stands out now for real is not revenue. Everybody can say we're helping you close more revenue, blah. It's the word that comes after revenue. And that word has to be new, right? Whether it's a word that describes the pain point that people are experiencing, which is what we're doing at Clari. We talk about revenue leak. That's our villain. So why do you need Clari? You need Clari to identify sources of revenue leak and then plug them. Whether that second word that comes after revenue is the name of your category. Gong did that with revenue intelligence, or whether that second word is the actual name of your product, which is what Salesforce did with Revenue Cloud. So I'm like being like specific and deliberate about the word choice of that second word, but I think that's how you stand out. You have revenue, and then you choose the second word wisely to describe either your problem, your market, or your product.
I really like this, but would you say it's applicable for earlier stage companies as well to try to define that kind of second action word in that case next to revenue, or is it more something that could work with established companies, aka Gong, Clari, Salesforce?
It always depends, right? That's always the most annoying answer, but being pragmatic, that creating a new problem statement and a new category and all of that stuff takes time and people and effort and focus and dollars and budget and all of that, which is not something that super early stage startups can afford. So I'm a little torn, but I think like theoretically you try to own one word or a few sets of words, because that's what people remember. People remember stories. Okay, all the Pixar stuff and all the whatever Andy Raskin stuff. Cool, yeah, you remember that. But at the end of the day, the attention span's been so short, you don't actually even often remember the full story. You remember one or two words. So pick your words wisely, and that should help you stand out no matter what stage you're at.
Love it.
Curious from your point of view in your career, can you tell us a time when you took a bold decision that went against the grain internally? How did you navigate that? How did you build influence on your idea? Or if it didn't work out, how come?
Oh my God. How much time do we have again? 5 hours, a couple of days, full retreat in Napa for a week. Yeah, man, I have horror stories and win stories for sure of being bold at the wrong time or with the wrong person or with the right company, like we all do, right? So maybe I'll try to give you an example of something that worked and something that didn't work. Something that worked, and maybe I'm going to use Clari a little more, not because I want to self-promote my current gig, more because it's just more recent and current, because I'm old, I forget things now. But Clari, I think a good example of like boldness that paid off is our event branding. So Clari has a well-defined brand, and with that goes a visual identity, and it's well codified. And I have my creative director, he's on my team, guy called Jesse, awesome guy. You would like him, same vibe as you, very chill. And so that's all good and great, but I was like, can we push the boundary and be a little bolder with our event branding? Still not, go too far and completely forget about the corporate brand, but be a little more playful, because we know exactly who's going to come to our event, virtual, in person, by the way. And so let's try to build off that. And that's when we came up a year and a half ago with the name of the event, as well as the branding that goes with it. So the event is called Charge, which I like. It's called Charge the Revenue Summit. It's bold, right? It's also having multiple meanings, like you can charge ahead like a bull, you can recharge or charge up. There's multiple ways you can take charge in terms of the meaning of the word. And then we went with the charge ahead first idea. And so our mascot, our icon, was a bull. And the whole branding of the event was all red. So lots of red, a big bull, a lightning bolt, and some lightning bolts that came out of the fucking bull. So it's like a lightning bolt bull type thing. It was a big bet. It was not, it was not a given. Pretty far from the origin of the brand, way bolder. And I think the first event we did with Devin Reed, our head of content, and Ryan, my head of PMM, we had over 3,000 registrations, which was 10x anything that Clari has ever seen. So that's a good example of, taking a bet. I know people think red is bad, but we went out all in with the red and the bull and that boldness, and it actually paid off, and we had a lot of registrations.
Well, I can just say, as one who very much likes to toe the line and cross it when it comes to creativity, I love how y'all did that. Particularly because when I think of Clari, I've never once thought red. And so I can imagine the immediate pushback internally from a variety of stakeholders. But the fact that you went with it, you committed to it, you educated internally on why we're doing this and made sure you got the buy-in. And now you got 3,000 registrations. That's just freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
I'm ready for the horror story.
Was that?
I said, I'm ready for the horror story, but I got to say, I'm going to lean in on the success story when I bring it to my leadership on the next. I'll say, Julien did this. It worked out.
Yeah. All right. So maybe another example, like I don't know if it's horror story, but something we tried with Einstein and Salesforce. I was the lead PMM on Einstein at Salesforce, right? So the AI stuff back then, 2016 to 2020, left in 2020. And so one of the bold moves that actually came from the top, to be honest, was back at Dreamforce 2019, I think it was, before COVID. So the last big Dreamforce, the last big in person, think over 150,000 people. The streets of San Francisco are crazy. You can't move around. Uber charges you 5x. It's like the whole city is taken over. It's ridiculous, and I hate it as a San Franciscan myself now. In any case, so big event, and so the bold bet was, let's have an Einstein smart speaker, like an actual, because it was all the rage of Google Home and Alexa back then, 2019, right? And so we said, okay, we're going to have a demo of somebody asking an Einstein-shaped smart speaker to go and query the Salesforce CRM data and give answers. So, yo, what's up, Einstein? What's my top 3 opportunities in my pipe right now? And then Einstein would be like, oh, your opportunities are ABC. Complete flop. We did the keynote, the Einstein keynote, and then people were just confused. They thought Salesforce was going to go and sell hardware, and people came to our booth after and wanted to buy the goddamn thing. And it was just so confusing and very cringy. And just the speaker itself had a weird British accent. Like, we tested all the accents, and there's data that shows that for an American audience, that's gonna be funny. Maybe not PC, but real data for an American audience. If you want to sound smart, you have to have a British accent. There's data that shows that. So that Einstein bubblehead guy was just talking with like British accent. It was not good. So not a horror story, but a lot of time and effort were spent into that thing, and I don't think we hit home with that keynote at all.
Do you feel like that wasn't bold enough?
Oh, good question. I don't know, man. Like, putting a British speaking weird, smart speaker on the stage when there's 10,000 people in the room, and 10x that live streaming. I feel like that's as bold as it gets, but maybe I should have been bolder. I don't know.
Yeah,
Should have went with the island accent. Should have went with the Jamaican accent.
There you go. Yeah, or the French accent. Yeah. Let me tell you what your forecast is, something like that. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. What do you think? What do you think went wrong in that situation? If you're able to trace it back a little bit, is there anything that you think could have happened differently if, for example, you could have been bolder, as Eric said, or if you had some guardrails in place?
It's a good question. I don't know. I would have. I need to do more self-reflection, I guess. But I think it was just gimmicky, right? To a point. Like I understand. Like everybody knows, Dreamforce is a circus. It just is, and people love that, and I love that. I still go to Dreamforce even as a non-Salesforce employee because it's just an enjoyable show. And there's Metallica and whomever playing. It's a cool show, and so we know that Dreamforce is always a little cheesy like that and loud and like bad taste a little bit. But I think that went a little too far. Like it just ended up being something completely unrealistic, obviously also very fake. Of course, we wouldn't take the risk of interacting with the smart speaker on stage. Everything was pre-recorded, right? The smart speaker wasn't even plugged in or anything. So it just came across as gimmicky, forced, fake, and yeah, kind of cringe, I would say. So I don't think it was a matter of being. I don't think it was too bold. It was just too. Like bold is always It's enjoyable if it's done in a tasteful way. Like you have to be subtle. It's like humor, right? Like bold or humor are kind of the same thing. If you overdo it a little bit, then it just becomes like something that you lose people with.
Love the breakdown.
10 speaker thing. That thing completely was forgotten in my mind. All these years, your guys are bringing the good old horror stories.
Someone from Salesforce who's on the PMM teams couldn't probably hear this and he'd be like, you know what? Let's bring that back. Let's relaunch it.
Yeah. No, we should experiment with the bull type thing. We actually wanted to do like a bull. I don't know the name in English, like the Texas way or the whatever, right? Like the cowboy thing at the past in-person event. And there is too much liability and whatnot.
It might be too late to suggest this, but maybe running with the Bulls through San Francisco. Just, get
a Spanish style.
The city.
The corrida. Yeah, I like it. The Spanish style.
Yeah, that'll get people's attention.
Yeah, there you go.
How does your background coming from that data science, right? Different type of research maybe, but still the same thing, very deep, in-depth, sometimes grueling research. How's that helped you become a better product marketer and elevate, throughout your career?
That's a great question. I think it's helped me just because of like the proximity with the numbers, right? Like I think I mentioned that at another podcast recently or something. I can't remember, but I think in essence what I said was what I hate about PMM sometimes is people are almost like, oh, we're PMMs, like it's almost like we're too good to get into the grungy numbers and data. Like I'm just telling the story, you guys figure out the metrics. I hate that. And so I think it's on every marketer, PMM included, to be able to go roll up their sleeves and get into the grungy, dirty details of the data and the metrics and know how much pipe you influenced and you sourced and what's your awareness metrics and are you boosting product adoption? Oh, those are numbers. They're KPIs, they're stats. And so I never want to hear the PMM objection of, I'm just the storyteller, you go figure out the details and the data. So sorry, I went a little off, but I think my data background brings me that and everybody, by the way, everybody's saying always, oh, I'm data driven. How many times have we heard people say I'm data driven? Have you ever heard somebody not say I'm data driven? So
for the data at all times.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not a data driven. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's how my background helped me, like going into the weeds of the data. And my advice to everybody is you got to get your hands dirty and get, deep into data to show impact.
That's a really strong take. I like it. My first question is, how often are you hearing PMMs looking to separate themselves from that essential point of data gathering and making sure that you actually data driven, air quotes? So that's my first question. The
Yeah.
second one is from someone who was knee deep into data with your data science background. How much do you think PMM should be like, sorry, I'll just plug a French word, but allies with data? How much do you think they should like be comfortable with data, basically?
Yeah. So I think I would hear, I don't know, if you take 10 PMMs across companies, segments, maturities, markets, probably I would hear I'm too good for that data shit type of thing. 4 out of 10. Like I think it's common. I don't think it's just
Wow.
isolated stuff. Yeah, of course they wouldn't come across as that, but if you start digging a little deeper, you realize they actually don't make the time to go deep into the data, right? So, and then if you start pushing them a little bit and be like, wait, what exactly is your KPI? Then they're like, they don't have a good answer, right? So I think it's more common than we would hope for. And then, yeah, 100%, I think PMM and data, they have to be, like every marketer has to be data driven. I hate to use that expression now, but you got to be close to your numbers, man. Like not the whole thing, but what are the 3 KPIs you own and then report on them every other week. That's the only way. People are always, like misunderstanding PMM, as we know, and PMM is like whatever, but if we don't show impact and metrics, then we're doing a disservice to the function. So it's on us, PMM, to evangelize what we're doing by showing data and impact.
No, definitely. I think there's also like a situation with company size. When I was a PMM working in enterprise, we had to know on numbers like 100% of the time. Every time that we were doing a brief or a launch or anything, it was always, okay, what's the status right now? Do you know your number by heart? And we were supposed to know it. When you're in a startup, I mean, a good one should have that data stuff figured out. Like you should be close to your numbers as well. But I saw it less. I saw like stuff that would ultimately give you nightmares of, okay, so those are your marketing goals. And when you take a look at it, it's not tied to revenue. It's like a bunch of lagging indicators. So I think that the context weighed a lot, but I think you have a very like normal point of view. Marketing should be like comfortable with data. And also that's almost like two faces of the same coin that, we're a storyteller at heart. We understand how to tell a good story, but we also have to get into the numbers and making sure that I'm actually actionable to bring those results and making sure that this go in the direction I want it to be.
And this is
Agree.
this has opened up another point of conversation, right? For me, at least, that I want to bring up. So I'm one of the quickest to be like, salespeople are lazy, right? What I just thought to myself is product marketers can be also kind of lazy. Like, I think particularly around that, right? The disservice that we're doing as a whole to not attach our efforts to metrics and not get into the data, that's not helping you, and it's definitely not helping the 4 gents on this call elevate their cachet in terms of product marketing in the organization and the value we bring. And I can't tell you how many times that I've heard from people either say directly, which puts a hole in my heart every time, or I'm able to ask the right questions and then discern the answer. But long story short, product marketers are historically known for not even talking to their customers. Right.
Yeah.
So I think there is an element there that a lot of people may not want to like look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm not digging into the data enough. I'm not attaching myself to KPIs enough. I'm not talking to my customers enough. And that might be a reality that, some of us all need to face. And when Gab, Zach, and I are chirping from the mountaintops on how product marketers are misunderstood, well, we're not helping ourselves out if we're not doing those things that you mentioned, Julien.
100%. Could not agree more. Like we could write a book about how self-inflicted the PMM pain is. honestly. It's half
Oh yeah.
not PMM, but it's also half PMM. Like we tend to make simple things complex, which is weird because like the PMM function is all about taking the complex and making that simple. But for ourselves,
Yep.
the way we describe ourselves is so freaking convoluted, as if we felt a little insecure and we just have to add stuff to the function. And as such, I think we're, as you said, we're doing a disservice to the function by not being clear about what we do and what we don't do. Could not agree more.
Definitely.
Maybe we just put data driven in front of our title and call ourselves data driven product marketing.
Don't get me started.
Julian, you said it earlier, and it seems like being a product marketer in your view is a tall order. It's not only knowing the data, but also being able to write the messaging and writing the copy. One challenge that we've seen for a lot of product marketers when they do write messaging, they put it forth, they've been bold, they're decisive. It goes through the review cycle and it's just tarred and feathered. It just is, it's like blander than like a salad at like my mother's like cookouts. It's terrible. So I'm going to ask you this now. From what you are saying, if PMMs should be copywriters along with crafting the messaging, does that mean that PMMs should have final say on the messaging and copy that goes on the homepage website?
Yeah, that's a super complex and spicy question, as we know, homepage. But before I even tackle that, I would say I do believe, I stand by my point, I do believe PMMs have to be good copywriters. I don't know if they own the final version of the copy that goes out in that, ebook, piece of content, web page, whatever. But again, way too often have I seen a little bit of that laziness that I think, Eric, you mentioned too, right? It's I'm too good to write copy. And then just go take a look at my MPD, my messaging positioning doc. No, it's not. That's not the way. The reason why I always want my PMMs to be good copywriters is it's gonna provide real-time feedback to your messaging. If you write a messaging doc, you don't try to then write actual sentences of it. You will never kind of test that thing out. Because at the end of the day, that messaging doc is internal, right? So you have to be able to translate that into actual copy and sentences. And then you'll realize, oh, wow, that second pillar value prop that I just used, it just doesn't flow nicely with my writing. I'm going to get back to it. And then you revise your messaging doc, V2, you write it so much better, and then you keep going. So that iterative process of from messaging doc to copywriting, I think helps a lot, both on messaging and on copy. And then the final thing I'll say about copy is clear writing is clear thinking. If you can't write, you can't think. Full stop. So again, even if you don't own the final version of the copy, you got to be a good writer, because if you're not, that means you're not a good thinker.
I love the take. And I think we can even extrapolate it a little further. And the fact that it's not only about writing copy, I think, but it's about if I'm a marketer, or if I'm someone in sales, or if I'm whoever inside of the organization, and I will be relying on those documents, like the messaging document, the positioning, whatever, to do something with it. If we're unable ourselves to do some part of the work, then it's going to be very hard for people to actually do the work. If I'm a copywriter internally, I'm getting the messaging document from the PMM, and I don't necessarily have an example, or it hasn't been pushed to the level where I myself as a PM can write some copy and then putting it to someone who would be far better, it's kind of hard to be a good team sport in that case, and making sure that you can actually help your colleagues do their best work.
That's exactly right. You're completely spot on, Gab. Yeah, it's like typically a copywriter, like think about their world, right? They have to write copy like all day long across channels and different stages and whatever and persona. It's not an easy job. No job is easy ever anyway. But if you just give them like that value prop type of document, 3 bullet points with the sub and whatever, it's just going to be like, I don't know what the F to do with this. They just don't know. So if you give them that plus a good enough V1 of your suggested copy, then they're going to take that to the next level. Like I have tons of examples of a beautiful web page that was created in no time because we shipped both messaging and early copy to the web copywriter, and also really bad web pages because we only shipped messaging document and not a V1 of the copy. So yeah, could not agree more. I realized I didn't answer the homepage question. I think homepage ownership that's a classic it depends case. Like I just can't say PMM should own homepage. Honestly, if you were to ask me, I think CMO owns homepage. I could even argue CEO owns homepage in a way. Like it's the most viewed page of your most used marketing asset, which is your freaking website. It captures all, like you can do all the thought leadership and all the awareness stuff in the world. Website captures that and turns that into leads. So it's that important, right? So homepage ownership is as high as a C-suite for sure, in my mind.
Copywriting is a different muscle that most PMMs don't have. I've read before, copywriting is the sales version of writing. You said it earlier. A lot of these PMMs out here are lacking. They're out here running on elliptical machines thinking they're going to have a beach bod by the end of September. But you're telling us to be copywriters, hit the squat rack. I'm curious, from your point of view, what are resources that PMMs can get to be more prolific copywriters versus just spinning their wheels on that elliptical machine that's not going to give them that summer body of copywriting as you're describing?
Look at you doing metaphors and shit like that. It's good. Yeah,
you might say I'm a copywriter.
Yeah, no, I like it, man. I'm just giving you a hard time. I can't think of a good resource right now. I think there's no easy way. Like the only way to learn is to do it, kind of. Like I know it sounds a little, but a little cliche. But yes, you can write books about copywriting, and Devin Reed, again, I mentioned him earlier, is a master at that stuff, and you can check out his content that converts. So there's a lot of good resource, but it's all until you try, you don't know. So I think it's on us all to educate ourselves a little bit, not for too long, and then just go take that little thing and start writing. And then don't feel like your writing is your baby. Don't be offended if people tell you it's bad. If they tell you it's bad, it probably is because it is. And then you just iterate, and it takes time, but then you get there. So sorry, not the best answer, but you can't think if you don't write, and you can't get to write if you don't try. That would be my thing.
Whip that pen out. I like it.
Agree. I think you gave a great answer. I firmly believe copywriting is a practiced activity, and you get better with it the more you practice. So just write stories, whether it's your personal stories and you've got your own journal, make some, dark projects and write some copy that'll never see the light of day anyways. And I think that's the muscle you just got to keep flexing. You got to keep building, and it's not a magic potion or a magic lesson that you get to take one time and it's all set in stone. You get better as you go.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say is I agree, Eric. I think people get intimidated by writing, right? It's, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Like writing is such an intellectual thing. It's not. Like that's how I have 2 kids. What do they do at school all day in like first grade and whatever? Like they write. That's what they think. Like we all know how to write. That's where we started. And now somehow it got lost along the way. So I just want to, I guess, send that message that writing isn't hard and it's not as intimidating as you'd think, because that's where we all started.
Put the reps in. I know we have about a minute left here too. So Eric, I think it's a good time to kind of close out, right?
Yeah, let's give him his farewell send off. Much deserved. All right, so Julien, I just want to say thank you from all 3 of us for getting on a call with us midweek. I know you've got a lot going on over there at Clari. One of our favorites, Emily Pick, has actually just joined the crew over there. So we know you've got a lot going on from the top down. For anyone who's on the call listening today, is there anywhere you'd like to send them to maybe learn a little bit more about you, any passion projects you have on the side, or even more information about what Clari's doing and how you're building out that team there?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, that's 3 questions in one. If you want to get in touch with me, I think LinkedIn is the best way. I don't do Twitter, I don't do Instagram, any of that stuff. So LinkedIn, passion projects, I don't have time for those. I wish I did, but full-time job plus being a dad, that's just, my life has no real passion projects. I can just say I have thousands of vinyls at my place. So I'm a vinyl and music nerd. I believe, Zach, you and I talked about it when we met in person a couple of months ago. And then Clari.com. Easy.
Awesome. You're also sharing some stuff on LinkedIn about. I think you were sharing your favorite croissant spot in San Fran. So that's
Yeah.
always I have a list of spot to visit when I'll be there.
We can compare notes. That'd be fun.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for everyone for listening for another episode of We're Not Marketers. We'll catch you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to We're Not Marketers. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, review our podcast, and share this episode with other PMMs. Thanks again, and see you soon.